Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Wei Song, Chairman of Cambridge Chinese Community Center, just in case someone don't know me. Thank you very much for coming to our meeting. Special thanks to our dear councillor friends. They are Councillor Louis Herbert, leader and executive councillor for strategy and external partnerships. Hello, Louis.
Hello, Wei.
Hello. Councillor Katie Thornburrow, executive councillor for planning policy and open spaces. Hello, Katie.
Hello, Dr. Wei Shen.
Councillor Robert Dryden. Hello, Robert.
Hi.
Councillor Gerri Bird.
Hello.
Gerri. Hello, Gerri. I think you are all familiar by everyone here. Thank you very much, every councillor again. I know you are very busy in your election campaign, and wish everyone very good luck and all get elected. Personally, I think whoever wins the support of our community will win the election. I hope this is the case. But anyway, the purpose of organizing this meeting is provide us an opportunity to communicate and participate. An opportunity for all our fellow Chinese friends to know more about our beautiful city's future plan, our councillor candidates, and ask their questions. An opportunity for our councillor candidates to meet the Chinese community, listen to them, and get their support. Chinese community is the largest ethnic minority group in Cambridge. According to the census of 2011, near 5,000 Chinese live in Cambridge. I believe that the size of our community has increased a lot after 10 years. Let's see this census results. I believe it will be published very soon. And you see, that's why I said that when the support of our community will win the election. I came to Cambridge in 2000, and I'm very proud of myself as a member of the Chinese community. Members of our community are hardworking, law-abiding, helping, caring the community they live. I would like to give an example. During the pandemic, Cambridge Chinese Community Center has donated over 50,000 face masks to hospitals, care homes, schools, police, ambulance, local residents, etc. We have also donated £4,000 to hospitals. There were many individual donations too, and I don't know the figures. Anyway, the agenda of this evening is, first of all, Councillor Louis Herbert will explain us Cambridge future plan, and then the councillor candidates who attended this meeting can introduce themselves to the audience. At the last quick Q&A time, I will ask my colleagues, Ms. Jin Zhao Li, member of Executive Committee of Cambridge Chinese Community Center, Director of Cambridge Chinese Center, to host it. That's what I want to say. Hope you have an enjoyable evening. Now, let's welcome Councillor Louis.
Well, thank you, Dr. Wei, and we really appreciate your organising this, and also it's great to see so many faces this evening, albeit at the other end of a camera. I know how important the relationship is between us and your community. We've been running the council for 7 years, and obviously when there's been events, we've been very keen to support you, and you've supported us, and that has included the years when Rob Dryden has been mayor, and obviously, yeah, we're here to answer any. So we're keen to answer any questions later as well. So yeah, Labour, assisted by support from yourselves and others, have been in charge of Cambridge for 7 years, and we've worked hard. We've worked hard for a good relationship between different parts of the community. We've tackled poverty. Your community was generous. Many of your members who are in the hospitality sector gave food. So during the pandemic, which I do remember the lovely event organised by the Cambridge China Centre at the Tamburlaine, and that kind of, the shadows were already growing then in January 2020. We could see what had happened in Hubei and in that province, and we could tell that there was a problem, but we thank you for the donation. And we appreciate all of the work that you've contributed in the last year, because everybody's had to look after each other. So I won't talk for too long, but I think essentially our themes are of 5, and I do start with that commitment to equality in the city, where everybody is treated with respect. And we've worked with you, and we've worked with the police. There were occasions, sadly, 2 or 3 years ago, of incidents which were totally unacceptable. And it is good that the police take the whole issue of people being able to walk without being interfered with around the city seriously. So we continue to work with you to ensure that your very hard contributors to the city can live peacefully without disturbance. And that's certainly one of our aims. Overall, since we've been councillors, we've really focused on 4 things. We focused on that issue of tackling poverty, of housing and homelessness. There's a pressing challenge of climate change, and perhaps Katie could talk about some of those issues, and also how she's made the most of parks. Everybody knows how important the recreation grounds have been in the last year, and I think has come to value them a lot more. So we've been planting lots of trees. We've done a lot on that. And then finally, we've obviously protected services. We don't have a happy relationship with the government because they don't give us enough funding. So if I just take poverty first, we are a rich city, but we've got a lot of people who need support. So in the last year, we've set up 8 community food hubs. I think over 15,000 meals have been cooked, some by members of your community. We do have a lot of families still in poverty, and we appreciate the support you've given. And we will continue that work, because there will be people unemployed as a result of the economy. We're putting a lot of effort into jobs. We've got an economic recovery officer, and we're obviously in stages, provided it's safe. We want everybody back in the city centre. On the 17th of May, people will be able to go into restaurants again. So your colleagues running restaurants on Regent Street and elsewhere in the city will, I hope, be welcoming back lots of people. So poverty's one. On housing, we've already started to build over 500 council homes, as well as ensure that in new developments, a lot of those are affordable homes for rent. Not everybody can afford £500,000, which is a typical price for a house in Cambridge these days. So housing's really important. You won't see many rough sleepers, because we're doing a lot more than we did previously, and our previous Lib Dem Council did. We have to help people who are homeless, and that also includes helping the sons and daughters of people in your community so that they can find housing in Cambridge. Perhaps if I handed over, say, to Katie, and then I think Gerri could contribute, and maybe Rob, Gerri and Katie, but maybe Katie, if you could talk about what we're doing on the environment and also say a bit about your background and your role on the council.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Rob wants to come in after that.
Rob wants to come in first because he has to go now, I think.
If I get back to the other meeting, I can come back to this one. Sorry about this. It's 2 meetings at the same time.
Okay, no problem.
And Lewis has said quite a lot what we're doing, but I just like to say I've been involved with Cambridge many years with the Chinese community, and what a fantastic time I've had, and what they've put into Cambridge. I mean, they've done so much, and I know even little things or little big things, they've given us masks and protective gear, protective for come to me to give to Cherry Hinton. And before I go, I hope I get it back, but what a fantastic job some of you have done to make us all part of Cambridge. You're invited to your events on the Parker's piece. We've come to it, and you've invited all the other communities in Cambridge. We all got together. It's been a fantastic time. And I just had to say it before I go, but I hope to get back. So can I just say that? And I hope the rest of the meeting goes well. So might see you later. Bye.
Thank you very much, Robert. See you soon.
Right.
Thanks, Rob.
Bye. Sorry, I've got to go. But...
Okay. Hello. So it's a real pleasure to be here this evening. I was born in Hong Kong, and I was living in Hong Kong with my family until I was 18 and came to university in the UK with the same as my brother and sister. And I studied architecture and wanted to stay on in the UK. My brother and sister went back to live and work in Hong Kong. And then when I finished my architectural course, I came to Cambridge thinking I would be here for 2 years. And now 32 years later, I'm still in Cambridge because it's such a lovely place to live and to work and to be part of a great community here. So I'm a working architect, and I've been researching as well into sustainable design. I have my own architectural practice, but I was lucky for 2 years to work with an architectural office in Chongqing, and I was traveling a lot to Chongqing, working to give advice on sustainable development for a new district north of Chongqing in Longjing district, and also worked on an award-winning visitor center to an old fortress in Chongqing. And I continue to have connections with the people I work with in China, and of course my family in Hong Kong still. But I've been a councillor for 3 years, and I'm mostly working on planning policy and open space. So I'm representing Cambridge to develop the next local plan, which will set our development goals and aims for leading up for Cambridge and around Cambridge up to 2040. And we're looking at the houses and jobs that are needed in this whole area to make sure that this area continues to thrive, but also knowing that we have to think more about the environment and well-being. They are going to be top priorities now when we think about how we can develop the spaces around us. So here in Cambridge, we have thought a lot about our open spaces, and we know we can learn from them as well. So we are planting a lot of trees, and we're running it as a science project to understand how it can help to cool spaces and help with the rain runoff, but also how it can help bring communities together. And we have a lot of open space in Cambridge, but we are in the process of adopting more than 100 hectares in South Cambridge, mainly in and around Trumpington. We have 2 new parks and lots of playgrounds. And we are looking to plant think about the environment by planting more wildflowers and cutting down the use of chemicals in the spaces. But we're thinking very carefully about how we form communities, and we have to learn from this last pandemic. Has been very difficult, but there's been a real sense of community. So many people came out to help each other. And I was involved with setting up a food hub in Trumpington, and I know that one of a Chinese resident was the first one to come and offer face masks, gloves and aprons on our very first day to help us open up. And we're continuing to run that now. And we're hoping to keep going for at least another 6 months. So we're also, what else are we doing? We're going to be, we're building a lot of new council houses, as Lewis said, but we're thinking about how they can be much more energy efficient and moving towards net zero homes, so that people can feel much warmer in the summer but cool in the winter as well. And we need to study the homes that we've got to learn lessons and make sure that they can be built better going forward in the future. So we've got a really good manifesto going forward. If we can be re-elected, we will be delivering more open space and more gardens and more allotments, but we will also aim for the developments in and around Cambridge to be net zero by 2050. That's our commitment, but focusing on well-being, equality and biodiversity and tackling climate change. Thank you.
So Katie's given you a good idea of a range of other things. So yeah, there's lots of elections on May the 6th. There's city elections because they didn't happen last year, and every councillor is up for election. So everybody gets 3 votes for the 42 city councillors. There are county council elections, and if that wasn't enough, there's also a combined authority mayoral election and a police and crime commissioner election. And our candidates for the mayor is a guy called Nick Johnson. He's a really good doctor in Huntingdon, a paediatrician. He's a solid individual. And we've been really badly let down by James Palmer as a mayor, because he has failed to receive £45 million in affordable housing funding, which is vital. And he made lots of promises, but he hasn't actually done anything or done anything for Cambridge. And then we've got Nikki Massey, and her role is really important because some really awful men have been in charge of policing. Both of them lost their jobs. One was called Jason Ablewhite and another was called Andy Coles. And they were both guilty of exploiting women in different ways. And we really would benefit, and I think Cambridgeshire really would benefit from having a woman in charge of policing and really understanding equality and the need to protect people. So there's lots of elections. If people wanted a postal vote, Dr. Way, then the deadline is next Tuesday. And some people, some of your relatives, some friends of yours might feel safer voting that way. So if you want a postal vote, that option is still there. So those other elections matter, and there's also a manifesto for the county election because they look after roads and they look after schools and they look after social services. So both of those manifestos, they're quite readable. They're not like long, boring essays. They're punchlines and very easy to read, lots of graphics. So if anybody wants to see them, they're on our website, which is called www.cambridgelabour.org.uk. So, and if you do have any questions, obviously we can answer them tonight, or if you want to email us. And maybe last but not least, from the councillors, Gerri, who's also been standing up for equalities and has been our mayor twice. Gerri, you could perhaps say a few things about why people should support a Labour council and re-elect us on the 6th of May. Gerri.
Okay, thank you, Lewis, and thank you, Dr. Wiesome. It's lovely to see you. as such. I'd like to give a big thank you to all the Chinese community. I know they've worked very, very hard, and I've met quite a few of the residents of this city, and I especially want to thank Rebecca Patterson, because she brought me some masks around when the pandemic started, and that really helped me. Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, I've been a city councillor now since 2011, and so I thought I'd try and restand again in East Chesterton. I love the job. I love meeting all the residents and all the different communities. It's just fantastic. And also why I joined was because I felt the disability side of it, that there was no voice for anybody. And I wanted to give the voice to the residents of this city as being a disabled person myself. And I think that's worked really well. And over the housing issue, I've pushed, as Lewis knows, to get more adapted properties, new homes built, so they're wheelchair friendly, or for parents with disabled children, which was a problem because I know we have families here in Cambridge with where they've got 2 disabled children. So they need quite a big property, which are now going to be built. And we've promised that at each phase we do will be 5% wheelchair friendly properties, which is really great news. And I'll keep fighting until it goes up and up, because that's something I really want to do. Also this year, I decided that I would stand for county council as well. So 2 elections for me this time. And the reason being, I was very concerned about the way the pavements are for the elderly and disabled, and kids, little kiddies falling over, and also the social care. The government's cutting the money all the time, and we've got more and more elderly people in our cities, and the budget's just been cut. So I want to shout for that as well. So I shall be working hard. But as the time I've been a councillor here in East Chesterton, I'm the chair of the North Area Committee, which covers the whole of the north side of the city. I'm chair of licensing, vice chair of housing, and chair of planning and transport. So you can see there's a lot of bits in there, but it all covers what is dear to my heart. So I'm so pleased now I've been allowed it out after a year of being stuck at home. And I've had my 2nd injection today, which is fantastic. And so I'll be out and about in the streets, meeting up with you all again, which is what I really want to do. So if anyone's got any questions for me, please shout them out.
So thank you, Wei. Probably best if we take questions, and obviously, yeah, as we've said, we really appreciate the joint work and the dialogue, and we know that there's a need to build that further, including more facilities, and we're here to serve you. So we're here to listen, but we hope that you will help get your families to support Labour and Labour candidates. There's probably a few of you who don't live specifically in Cambridge, but there's elections everywhere. And the more Labour representatives, the better Cambridgeshire will be, and Cambridge City. So thank you for your time, Wei.
Thank you very much. And thank you for Katie, Gerri. Thank you very much for your lovely talk. And I saw, actually, I invited Mark Ashton here as well, and your comrade here, Louis. So, Mark, can you talk something? Sorry, Louis, I haven't talked to you before he came. I just want to give you a surprise.
Not a problem. Hello,
Okay.
Mark.
Hello, Dr. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I've been a councillor in Cherry Hinton for 10 years, and I believe very much in Labour policies. And as Lewis pointed out, Cambridge is a wonderful city, but it's a tale of two cities. We have some real deprivation in some areas. And one of the things that drew me into being a councillor was working that Cambridge is fair for all. And I think in the short time we have been in power compared to the Lib Dems who were in power before, we've made some massive changes. As we pointed out, homes is a major one. Homes in Cambridge are a nightmare for anybody trying to get on the ladder. So we've really put a big effort into providing 100% council housing, and we've managed to do, as Katie pointed out, 500 already, and we've got another 1,000 planned, and that's going to make a massive difference. One of the other areas as well is transport in Cambridge, and this is where it gets complicated for residents, because the county really is in charge of the transport and the road system, but we try our best to put pressure on to do that. One of the powers that Mayor Palmer was elected on was providing a better public transport system. And what we wanted him to do was provide a better bus service for all residents, that buses that would be efficient, run on time, be cost effective. And he's totally gone the opposite way. He's talked about £4 billion tunnelling under Cambridge, and he's denied residents a chance to use local bus services. I was at a meeting with the bus users group, along with the Whippet managing director, and Whippet are desperate to run more services for residents of Cambridge. And Mayor Palmer has the power to let franchisees do that, and for whatever reason, he denies that. So again, I would stress to everybody who's voting that one of the reasons they need to look at appointing a Labour combined mayor for the authority is that Nick is very keen on public transport for all areas. We're all recognising Cambridge, the congestion we have at the moment. And again, to make matters clearer, regards road closures in Cambridge, that is not the Labour City Council's remit for closing roads. That comes under Cambridgeshire County Council, which is Tory dominated. Labour City want to see people be able to move around the city, and we believe residents should be involved in full consultations before any road closures take place. So again, any kind of road closure, we would want to see a consultation taking place with all residents and businesses in that area. Once that had taken place and we've got the results of the consultation, if the majority of people wanted some kind of closure, then we will go along with that, because we're here to look at what the residents want. So again, I want to stress to people that we want to listen to what residents want and not what we want. And our policies over the last 10 years have come from listening to what the residents of Cambridge want, and they've continued to show their faith in us by doing that. Again, when we took over this authority, there was £20 million not earning 1 penny of interest. So we've made sure that we're getting money to pay for services that can continue to be used. And as Lewis pointed out, the government have actually withdrawn every penny of support to Cambridge, and we're having to do it ourselves. So we invest in commercial property as well, which some people say we shouldn't do, but we need to raise income. Our car parks raise income for needed services as well. So again, we believe we have a balance that does best for this city of Cambridge. So like I say, I would say if you can vote, do vote, and think of what we stand for. We're standing for everybody in Cambridge, not just a certain few. So I won't go any longer, Dr. Wu, and I hope that just gives you an idea of why Labour is the party for Cambridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, Louis, should we have a Q&A time now?
Absolutely. Any questions or anybody wants to ask?
I would like hand it over to Jin Zhou. Hello, Jin Zhou. Can you host these sections?
Thank you very much, Dr. Sun Wei. Thank you. And I know you have a couple questions. Do you want to ask them to now?
I think the most important people ask it the last.
Okay.
Sorry, I will leave it later. Sorry.
Okay, we'll keep Dr. Sun Wei the most important questions to the last then.
Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Louise, Mark, Katie, Gerri, and Robert for joining us and telling us about the plan of Cambridge City Council and also your plan as a Labour Party, meeting the some Chinese community members, and some are candidates, some are voters. We have received many questions via WeChat groups and private messages already. So we have, I have really trying to combine similar questions so we can have some efficient communication time. And in the meanwhile, everybody in this Zoom room, if you have your further questions we haven't received yet, please feel free to type them into the chat box. And I will keep an eye on the chat box. If any questions coming up, if it's similar to what we have received so far, I will try to combine them. If it's some different questions, new questions, and we'll comment on those questions. Okay, hope we have some good communication tonight. First question from Mr. Zhixin and also from myself is about traffic congestion. Mark just mentioned. Actually, Cambridge is one of the most congested city in the UK. On Cambridge government website, it says Cambridge was the number 16th most congested city in the UK, and people in Cambridge spend average 71 hours sitting in traffic per year. That's in 2019, before COVID. So 2020, 2021, we have no idea, but it's becoming busy already. So we don't know how things will be like after all restrictions lifted. So the question is, although Mark says it's down to the county council, we have Gerri standing up for county council election as well. So the question is, what are the council's strategies to tackle the increasing traffic congestion and pollution in and around Cambridge? And also, is the Cambridgeshire Metro plan still in the radar?
I've been a member of the Greater Cambridge Partnership because there's a joint committee between the councils. So you're absolutely right to raise that, Jin Zhao. It is a big challenge, and we've seen what it can be like. So during the lockdown, we've had cleaner air, and you could see that just if we can lower the number of cars, then cars can travel around the city. So what's already happening is that we're building 4 fast public transport routes. There's one from Addenbrooke's out towards Babraham. There's one that I totally support from Newnham out to Cambourne. There's one from Milton Road to Waterbeach Plant, and there's one from the east of the city, Newmarket Road, out towards the roundabout, if people know the Quay roundabout, or out towards the east. So I think number one is, and it links to Mark's point, is that we've got to make public transport better. So we already have bus lanes, but we've got to make it so that people know that they can get to the station or the hospital or the centre of town. So number one is to give priority to buses. We have a choice, which won't be easy. We do need to find extra money to fund buses. So personally, and not all of my colleagues may agree, but I want to see a pollution charge on dirty vehicles. We have a lot of electric taxis now. You might see electric taxi charging points. I saw one on Newmarket Road, just opposite a cafe, a restaurant I really like, that's run by one of your community members. So we really do need to raise extra money for buses. And I do believe that a pollution charge against dirty vehicles, making sure that all buses are either electric or ultra low. You will see electric taxis. We will have more electric charging. We just basically do need to reduce the number of vehicles. Plus, we will make priority for cycling and walking. So the city centre, we expect to shut some more roads and have more. You'll see more eating out spaces in the summer, and that needs to continue. So we need to make it much easier with electric bikes, with cycling, and Gerri will stick up for access for people who do need to come into the centre. But why shouldn't we have more outdoor eating spaces on streets like Regent Street and St Andrew Street? As Mark said, we would always consult if we've got a say on the roads, but we do need there, Jinzhao, to get rid of a lot of cars, but only if we can make things better. In terms of Cam Metro, the problem is that the mayor has been talking about it for 4 years and has spent about £15 million already, and there's nothing there to show for it so far. I agree it's a good idea. I just don't think he's the person who can ever deliver it, because he does not build a partnership, and it's all about James Palmer. So I do believe in tunnelling, because you couldn't have a tram system on the roads. We've got very narrow roads, and it would be very dangerous for cyclists or for elderly people, because trams just find it difficult to fit in. So I do believe in there being a north-south link, a tunnel, but I do believe also in bus routes. So if you look at the route from Addenbrooke's to the station, there's a very fast surface route there where the buses move very effectively. We need to control their speed for safety, but we just need more of that, Jinzhao. And then I do think that we would have less cars on the road, and I do think that less people will commute to work, because people are finding it easier to work from home. But bus services, cycling, walking, and maybe I'll still be alive when a Cam Metro comes along, but I don't think it's going to be here till 2035. And we've got to sort out the problems now. We can't put up with this for another 10 or 15 years. The London Metro, the Paris Metro, they all took decades, and I do think it can happen, but we need to do it now. I hope that helps. We are determined to tackle congestion, and as Mark said, we really do believe that we can help there being more buses, and Stagecoach should not be running all the buses, and that's why Whippet or other bus operators and minibuses, little buses as well, should help people get around the city. I hope that helps.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Louise. For an ancient historic town like Cambridge, we look after every ancient building, every tree, and the metro plan really sounds like a very exciting solution for Cambridge. We do hope that we can see the metro plan really happen within foreseeable future. And
sorry, Jinzhao, to interrupt you. I see Gerri is raised her hand.
Yeah, Gerri, you want to comment on?
Yes, please. Sorry, I just wanted to follow on to what Lewis said about the buses. Buses is a big problem for a lot of elderly and disabled people. So we want, like I say, more buses, but also we want more buses that will hold more than one wheelchair. Because at the moment, if you have got a family with 2 wheelchairs, you have to travel separate. That's not good enough. So this is something I really want to fight on. And transport is a big issue. So especially around the town, like Lewis said. So yes, any questions on that, please come back to me.
Okay, thank you, Gerri. Also, we talk about the buses, and also Louise talk about the electric taxis, bicycles. How about electric buses? And actually, we have a very good question from Lao Liu from the WeChat group, and he's asking why Cambridge, or will Cambridge have a plan to bring in some electric buses as public transportation method?
Well, we have 2 already. You may not notice them, but they've got 0 emissions on the side of them. So there will be more, and we can declare a clean air zone in the centre of the city, and we can then tell Stagecoach and other bus operators that only cleaner buses can come in. So I think they will happen, because those buses can now do 150 miles or 200 miles in a day. And if they're just going in and out of Cambridge, that's the kind of mileage they can do. So yeah, and they're quieter. They're so quiet that they almost need to have a little bit of noise so that people hear them, particularly if pedestrians or cyclists are trying to use the road as well. So I'm confident that there will be more electric buses in the next few years, and that we will be ahead of other cities.
That's great. I think Mark and Katie would like to add on to that point.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that Stagecoach do not have any consultations when they get rid of their routes or talk about new routes. For people in Old Cherryington, they took away a bus service that ran around one of our council estates and took away the bus service that ran down Coldham's Lane and linked in with Terrysham. We lobbied extensively with Stagecoach, and I met the director of Stagecoach, and his answer was, thank you for all that, but we don't believe at this moment in time we need to run a service. And they're doing it all over Cambridge. So again, people don't understand sometimes that Stagecoach are a law unto themselves. They just put a notice out to us to say, this route will be being stopped. They don't ask our opinion on it. And of course, we feel the brunt of it, because residents say to us, why are you getting rid of the buses? Why aren't you improving them? So again, it's this reason why when you're voting for the combined mayoral position, you need to get the Labour person in who's very keen on promoting the bus services, especially from the villages. When we talk about congestion, because these bus services have been taken away, people are forced to use the cars to travel into Cambridge. If there was a bus service from the villages and the outlying centres and it was the right price, why would you use your car? You use the regular bus service. So again, you know, we need to get that joined up. Thanks.
And I see Katie, you'd like to add something.
Yes, I was just saying the quickest way to get more electric buses is for the next combined authority mayor to be Labour. He's promoting buses. He's a champion buses, and then we can learn from how Shanghai and Guangzhou delivered electric buses so efficiently, and then we could hopefully have electric buses in Cambridge and the area around Cambridge. That would be the quickest way.
Thank you, Katie. And also really transportation is the key, is a daily, very important in daily life. I have two more questions about transport. One is from Helen Wang. Actually, Helen lives on Coldham's Lane. Mark just mentioned that. They used to have number 17 buses, and it takes them about 10 minutes from Coldham's Lane to city centre, and the bus just stopped. Now they have to take number 1 bus, which takes about an hour from Coldham's Lane, stopping everywhere, 10 more minutes at the train station and then to city centre. So they're just wondering whether there's anything the city council can do to really look into people's welfare and really convenience for daily life. That's one question about bus route. Another one is from Fei Yang, and Fei Yang lives in Northstowe. And he said that when they bought the house, from the sales brochure, it says Northstowe is going to be built into the largest town in the UK for this century. And many of the residents in Northstowe work in Cambridge. But the thing is, although there's guided busway, but two-way every day, two-way busway ticket costs about £8. It's more expensive than driving into Cambridge, in and out of Cambridge. And so they're wondering, it's such an important, large satellite town for Cambridge. Is there any way that Northstowe can be included in the Cambridge circle? For example, from Oakington to Cambridge, the return bus ticket is about £2, but they pay £8, and many people would prefer to drive. So is there any way we can make it different and then people encouraging more people using public transportation. So those are the two more transportation questions.
So if I just answer there, Jinjiao, the second question. So I Northstow's in South Cambridgeshire, but I do talk to people who live there, and I'm concerned about the community because it doesn't yet have a shop. So if I was running the show, I would just put anything. I'd put a container down, set up as a shop, so at least it could have certain things. It's great that there's a school, both a junior school and a secondary school, but there isn't enough in terms of community facilities. So clearly it's up to South Cambridgeshire and the owners of the land, but we want that to be developed quickly. And we think it'll happen because the house prices are more reasonable than in Cambridge, and there are very few new sites in Cambridge to build. So I'd be keen to hear from anybody in Northstowe what it's like there, and I'm very happy to follow that up. In terms of transport, Mark mentioned that the mayor has got powers and the mayor hasn't used the powers. They're what's called franchising. So when a route is agreed, or when the county council sets up the arrangements for the guided bus, there used to be 2 operators on the busway, and now there's only 1. And they, as I mentioned before this question, we don't particularly like Stagecoach because their main objective is to run all of the buses, and then they won't have any competition, and then they can do what they like, including on fares. So more practically, it is either possible to expand the zone or to create a middle zone so that it doesn't suddenly go from a Cambridge day fare to a county-wide day fare. So I think that may be more likely what happens, that we say, look, there has to be somewhere in the middle, like £4, so that there's a tier of fares. At the moment, it's Cambridge and then Zoom, huge fares, and I'm very happy to take that up as an issue over the next year, because it isn't fair that someone who might not have a family could cycle into Oakington and save themselves £30 a week. And so it doesn't make sense, and it isn't fair on people in Northstowe. So I don't know if one of my colleagues wants to answer the first question, not because I've forgotten it, of course not, but because they may have something to contribute, and maybe people hear too much of my voice.
About number 17 bus is just being stopped.
Yeah. So I don't know, Mark or Katie, do you want to come in on that bus question?
I don't know specifically about that bus route, but again, we can, Mark may know, but I don't know specifically about that.
I think it's, it's applying the pressures to the people who can change things. Lewis can change things that happen in Cambridge, and he's the man to turn the tap and hit with the hammer to do things. Mer Palmer is the man to hit with the hammer and get things done. So, I always say to people, get in touch with Palmer, harass Palmer, send him the emails, ask him why he's not doing what he has the powers to do. He's got the powers over transport. He was elected to do that. We agreed one of the reasons for a combined mayor was that he would have franchising powers, and he's not used them. As Lewis pointed out, we keep asking, but I think the residents need to just keep reminding him as well. Why is he not using his franchise powers? Why is he not allowing other bus users who want to get on these services to get on there and apply pressure that way? And I think if we all keep squeezing from our various ends, hopefully we'll crack the nut eventually.
Thank you very much, Mark. We'll bring some of the questions to Mayor Palmer or whoever next county combined authority mayor will be.
Well, it depends who's the mayor, and hopefully won't. One interesting point for everybody's information is that the mayoral elections and the police election are people get a second choice, so you put 1 and 2. So it isn't as easy for Mayor Palmer to win, because if people don't like him, all of the 1s and 2s can join up, and I think he could be beaten. But we need someone who listens. I know that he doesn't. If he doesn't like a letter, it goes in the bin. And I would never do that. Everybody who emails or sends letters to councillors in Cambridge gets a reply. So we need a new mayor. I call him the nightmare, but that's being a bit unkind.
We'll soon know the results. And Darcy also mentioned about the Cambridge zone and county zone, because he lives just outside of Cambridge, but paying for 96 pounds per month for a monthly pass, instead of in just very close in Cambridge zone is 57, but that's covered by Louise already. Okay, next question, apart from traffic, next question, let's talk about planning. This is question from myself and from Zhixin as well. And for planning applications on either residential properties or commercial properties, normally it takes months and months, sometimes years, for decision to be made. So we don't know why. It doesn't look like it takes that amount of work to do the job, but it just takes months and months and months waiting. But the very lengthy waiting can add on huge unnecessary costs to the applicants. So we're just wondering whether there is some possibility or in the plan to make some changes to shorten the waiting time for planning applications. And Katie.
Yes, I've been talking to the planning department even this week to say that if somebody makes a planning application, the time is money to people. It's important that the decision is made, and that it's as important to tell people quickly if it's not the right design and they can't get planning, or they can get planning. It needs to be more black and white. Is it okay? Can we pass it quickly? Is it not okay? Let's tell them and make it better. So what we really want to do is to have more discussions before the planning application is submitted, so that we can have a really good discussion about what is appropriate for the site. Does it meet all of our planning policies? Can we consult with neighbours beforehand if they have concerns? Let's deal with it. Let's get it all sorted out, and then when you make the application, you will know much more quickly, and hopefully it will always be, it's going to be okay, because we've had these discussions in advance. We're very aware that it's not acceptable to have long waits. It needs to be clear, and when you put the application in, people need to know they'll get hopefully a firm approval within the 8 weeks period. So we are reviewing the whole process, and in the last couple of years since I've been the executive for planning policy, we've started doing a review of the process about registration and enforcement and conditions, and ideally we would like less conditions as well. And a lot of it is to do with working with people who are interested in building work beforehand, and then sort that out, and then hopefully a much quicker process. So we're aware of that, and we want to aim for an 8-week turnaround for applications to do with houses.
Thank you very much, Katie. Like you said, time is money. Really, we would like to see some efficiency in many jobs, including planning application. Next question is about the train station area. This is from Icefish, and he or she says there have been many office buildings and apartment blocks near the train station area, and there are going to be 2 more new buildings. I think he meant the 2 buildings at the Cambridge Station car parks, and that's the CB1 expansion project. And they don't think it's necessary. It's been too many already, and the 2 more buildings will make the already very bad traffic traffic jam and the pollution issues even worse. They are very strongly against this CB1 expansion project. They would like to know your view on this.
Do you want to answer it, Katie?
Yes, we generally, we are concerned about, we know that this area is a hotspot for taxis idling, and that is making air pollution much worse. And we know that the route of access to the station square is next to residential and routes homes. And there's quite a lot of congestion, and then there's noise with deliveries at the back of those shops. So we've been, but because at the moment the two sites that you refer to are allocated in the local plan, so they have been identified way back in, I think, starting in about 2012, 2013, that this was an area for development, but it must be appropriate and good, and it really should aim not to make the traffic any worse. And the number of cars parking in that may come through there won't be any more car parking spaces. There will only be more cycle parking. But really, my opinion, I think we need to work with Brookgate to try and encourage the traffic to stay on Station Road and think of improving the landscaping. But the application that will only be approved if it meets our planning policies and our desire to have more active transport, and really we want to reduce air pollution.
Yeah, that's a very important area of Cambridge, and everybody hopes that it's not going to become one of the problematic areas of Cambridge. Yeah. So next we have some questions from Zhang Cheng and Zhixin as well about road closures. John says, lots of questions. Why it takes over a year to repair a half-mile road? Why is it that they close a lane with lots of cones and left empty for several days with nobody working on them, and causing unnecessary traffic jam, gridlocks? Also, no police or traffic warden around to marshal the traffic. And from Zhixin, why small projects like doing a roundabout cost millions? Why repairing a pothole needs to close a road for a few days? How are efficiency of projects and efficiency of using the public money are managed and monitored?
So a lot of this is down to the county council, and I'm annoyed because my area is Coleridge, which is to the north of Cherry Hinton Road, and we had £1 million scheme ready to go to improve Cherry Hinton Road, but the county council took money from that and other places because one roundabout cost over £3 million. It's called Fendon Way. It's near the hospital, and it's nothing special really. It's a roundabout. So I'm afraid we're not able to defend, because I don't think that they run things very well, and I don't think that they care about Cambridge. It doesn't help that there's no Conservative county councillors in Cambridge, and there hasn't been for over a decade. But there's a good reason, because they just do not look after the roads and they don't fix the potholes. So perhaps Gerri might come in. I do think we need stronger councillors. So at the moment, the area Gerri is standing for has got a Lib Dem councillor, and I don't think he's done much. But we just need to be strong. It's sad because pavements and roads and potholes matter. I just passed the Anglian Water and electric companies and telecom companies. They've got too much power from the government to shut roads, and Anglian Water are not sorting out East Road quickly. I've passed there twice, Jingzhou, and I've not actually seen anything happening. And yet hundreds of cars are having to travel an extra mile or an extra 4 miles, depending on where they're going. Gerri, do you want to come in? I'm sorry that I like to answer questions, but unfortunately, all I can say is that the County Council is useless. Sorry.
I have to agree with you there, sorry. But yes, for some reason, if you go to the County Council and ask for something to be done like that, they'll say, well, we only talk to our county councillor, which is no good. I'm a city councillor, but I can't get the answers from the officers at county council. I have to go through a county council councillor, which is so confusing. And probably the same problem goes through for residents. So I tell the residents in East Chesterton, where I'm a councillor, that if you've got a problem with a hole or you see a really bad pothole, please let me know and I'll report it for you, because that's the best way to do it. Report it, especially if you have an accident. Report that, because you can claim on that if you hurt yourself, and you shouldn't have to have days off work because of somebody's big hole. But they just don't care, and I don't know why. It seems that human part of them has disappeared. But it is a serious problem in Cambridge. It's not just in my ward, it's in all wards where we've got this problem. So in the Chesterton area, where I'm going to be a county councillor, I'll be jumping on that as well, and hopefully it'll make a difference in the city. Does that help?
Thank you, Gerri. Mark, you like to add on?
Yeah, you asked why does it cost so much, and it's a question I've asked many times to the county council officials, and I think one of the problems is they have no idea of business. A lot of these people have never worked in business. They have a strange way of tendering projects out. A lot of them tend to go to just a few major contractors who know exactly how to play and how to operate the game. And what's happened over the years is, in the terms of being political correct and being whiter than white, whereas a small local firm in the past might have been given the work to do and could do it very quickly, people then got accused of giving backhanders and people buying for tenders. So to make it more open to everybody, these tenders became massive tendering operations. And instead of a few pages now, you've got things like 10 pages of just
Is it my internet or Mark's internet?
I think it's Mark's internet. Probably we will go to another questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He may have to come back.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I'll try and answer a couple of the questions that are on the chat by typing, if it's simple answers.
Yeah. I have just one more question, and then we go to the chat box.
Yep.
Thank you very much explaining the city council, county council, and also we have a combined authority as well. But really, many of the Chinese residents in Cambridge, we heard this last few days many times, that people got the reminder, they got a vote, but they don't know how to vote or who to vote. It will be frustrating for the voters to trying to figure out which is the county council's responsibility or which is city council responsibility. They are just residents, they have problems, they want somebody to solve the problem, and they will vote for whoever they think are the best, who care about the residents, who work for the residents. Really, I think today is a very great start to start communicating and trying to understand each other a lot more. Next question is from Miss Cai Fang, and also I see June mentioned that in the chat box as well. And the question is, why did the city council controlled by the Labour Party put up the council tax by 2.5% when many people didn't get that much pay rise, or some even lost their job this year?
So we don't increase the council tax lightly. Our total budgets we spend a lot on housing, but our general budget's about £20 million. And as Mark said, we don't get anything back from the government. And we also had extra costs during the pandemic of about £5 million last year. So we didn't cut anything, we didn't stop anything, and we spent a lot more money on trying to keep the city centre safe when people were shopping, on the food for the community food hubs, the 8 community food hubs, on a whole range of things. So we don't like putting up taxes, but the government, the government isn't putting up income tax and it isn't putting up other taxes, but it is making councils effectively carry the cost of them not giving us enough money. One of the things that we do have is that people on very low incomes can get a significant reduction in their council tax. So there's not many councils provide that. So we take the money that we make because we charge extra for empty homes and we also charge for second homes, and we save that money, and that pays for a council tax reduction scheme for people on low incomes. So if people feel, anybody on this call or anybody in your community knows that they're on a very low income, then they can get in touch with us. But we do need to protect services, so we need to have the parks, we need to have good cleaning of streets, and we run a lot of toilets, we run a lot of facilities, and we give £1 million out in grants to organisations that help people who are in poverty, lots of money for the homeless, because we do not want to have any rough sleepers on the street. So we're sorry, but we think that if people pay a bit extra, that's important at this time, and we will try and keep the increase lower in future years. I think the county council put up their council tax by 3%, and other people have put up the tax. Ours, I think, effectively people pay, I'm just trying to remember now, but people pay something like, out of the £1,000 or £1,300 that people pay in council tax, I think it's about £200 a year that people pay to the city council. The other stuff goes to the county council, to the police, to the fire brigade. So we do not think, Jingzhao, that £4 a week is a bad value for the services that we give. I hope that helps. We will try and keep the council efficient. We are trying to keep our costs low, and I think £4 a week is not bad value for living in Cambridge for the services that the City Council produces.
Thank you, Louise. You can imagine that the City Council must be running with a lot less funding, but need to fulfill same amount of responsibilities, like having the police, fire brigades on operation, also keep the streets clean, rubbish collected, everything. So I can imagine that. Louise, would you want to echo some of the questions in the chat box, saving me reading them out?
Okay. I'll just try and get to the top of the page. So I have put on the question from Julie Wu, I have put on that the bridge, it needs to be connected first. So the bridge was put in place because it was possible to do it. And there's a large metal bridge there, which is next to the railway between Chesterton and Ditton Meadows, I think it is, in Abbey. And that will be open before the end of the year, hopefully in the autumn, not in December. And it will be really useful because it will enable people who want to go to what's a really good station at Cambridge North, as well as people from Chesterton wanting to walk or cycle at weekends or to work. So the whole of the Chisholm Trail will take longer. That's a cycle and walking route all the way from that bridge to the central station. But the bridge will be open this year, and it will be a real bonus And I think particularly at weekends, it'll be really valuable because that's a beautiful area, Stourbridge Common and the area of Fendison. So not long is the answer. And then if I go down, we've talked about the council tax. In terms of council housing, the answer to Lele's question, we persuaded government to give us £70 million. So for new council housing, we get that money. We're building 500 new homes. We also own some land, and we get some income when the government forces us to sell council homes. So we've managed to build those. Essentially, all of the housing pays for itself. There may be people on the call who rent council housing. Those rents, sooner or later, they pay for the council houses, because in 30 years' time, if we've got a £300,000 council home, the rents will completely pay for it. So we've got some money out of government, and we have built 500, and now we're planning to build another 1,000 over 10 years, and it'll be similar. It will be partly out of the rents that people pay, but we know that it's needed because people can't afford to buy. It's great to build more homes, but some of the main roads need improving. Well, I just think it's really sad that the county council doesn't maintain them as well as they should. So there's still some need to improve those. Crime. Well, I mentioned the fact that we really are very keen and very clear that there should be no racial abuse, and that women and others should be able to walk safely. But we also talk to the police regularly, and Nikki Massey leads that, the woman who's standing, and I think it is time for a woman to lead the police. So we do talk to them about burglaries, and we work locally because they do happen in patches, and they're often, in Cambridge, they're often linked to people with drug problems because they feed their drug habit. So we try with the police to make people improve the security of their buildings, but also to catch the people. So if ever your community or people have got issues with the police, then by all means email me. But the man in charge in Cambridge is called James Sutherland, and we do meet him once a month, and we do regularly check what the position is on burglaries. There's a question here about plans. I don't know, Katie, if I read it out or if you can answer that one.
Yes, it's about Trumpington.
Sorry, Katie, can I jump in, introduce a colleague of you, and before you carry on?
Yes.
Please welcome Russ, the mayor of Cambridge. He was in a meeting, but he managed to join us now. Hello, Russ. Can you talk?
Yeah, yeah, I certainly can. I like to stay quiet where I can, you know. So I've turned up in a nice bright orange shirt. I hope that's okay. That's the colour of one of my charities, McPherson. So I've just been talking to them. So this is theirs. So no chain at the moment.
Okay. So do you want to say a few words to us, or you wanted to listen to carry on?
A little bit later. Let Katie finish what she started.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. In Trumpington, I think there are still plans in Trumpington Meadows to complete some more houses just to the south a bit, and also to finish off the road connection so that there is another main road into Trumpington Meadows. And currently there are no further plans for any new building or houses. It's important that around the Clay Farm Centre on the east, there is some housing and a shopping area near the Clay Farm Centre, which will be finishing probably this year. And there will be another supermarket near the Clay Farm Centre and a restaurant or cafe. And now that the pandemic, well, hopefully we're opening up from the pandemic, that we will get the empty shops there filled. And I think in Trumpington Meadows, there are some shops as well that need to be filled. So we hope that we can then concentrate on helping the community more and focusing on the centres of the community, as well as working hard to make sure the open spaces are finished off to the right standard. So apart from that, there won't be any more development. Longer term, there may be more building work in the Cambridge Biomedical campus, and there is a new South Cambridge station is planned there, which will be to the east of Hobson Park. So people will be able to walk or cycle from Trumpington to South Cambridge station, which I think is now possibly planning to be open in about 2 or 3 years, which would be very quick. And so there's mainly the development will be on the biomedical campus going forward, I think. Thank you.
Okay, we have a pre-received question from Ms. Yang Qun and Jade Wu as well. And they're wondering about the hate crime that Louise mentioned at the very beginning. Do you see an obvious increase of hate crimes in Cambridge, particular hate Asian crimes since the COVID-19? And does the council have any plan or strategy tackling hate crime and intolerance?
Can I answer that, Dr. Wheaton? Is it okay if I answer?
Of course, yeah.
Did you want to do it, Lewis, or shall I?
Well, you go first and I'll follow up.
Okay, yes, yeah, I'd heard there had been some hate crime towards your community, and I was very concerned about that as well. And all I can say to people is, please report it. The more you report it, then the police can do something. You shouldn't have to live like that. Never be frightened. Please go straight to the police. And if you're still worried or not sure how to go about it, contact one of your local councillors and they will help you. They're always there to help. Always ask them. Okay. And I was very concerned about that.
So my information, because I did get asked this in an email this week. So I did get an answer from James Sutherland, who's in charge of the police. So I'll forward that to Dr. Wayson and you can share it on. I think the bigger problem was when we had more tourism, and I think the number of incidents was too large and too frequent, and that was back in 2019. I think there was also some, and it wasn't helped by some politicians, that when the coronavirus broke out initially, and I'm just talking about a period of a month or two, in February to April last year, there were some incidents recorded, which was wholly unfair because China, as you know, managed and controlled the epidemic far better than the UK. So at that time, people heard and saw news on the television that there was problems in China. But in China, the deaths are under 5,000 reported deaths, whereas we are now at least 130,000. And so I think there was there were a couple of incidents just over a year ago, but my information, Wei and Jingzhou, is that the issues are not serious at the moment, but we will be on top of this because we regard hate crimes against people of different racial groups, against people with disabilities, against people just for whatever feature they are, are a priority. And I'm confident that the police in our city take this seriously. And I couldn't have said that 10 or 20 years ago, or when I was even younger than I am today, because I witnessed too many episodes. So it's a top priority for us. And I noticed there were other issues raised about what's the police doing about speeding and about antisocial behaviour. As Gerri said, people have to report it, and local councillors do get involved. And if there are places where trouble is caused, we put CCTV in. We make sure that the police increase their patrols. We are determined to tackle anything to do with racial injustice, and anybody who has got any motivation, because the Labour Party has always championed equality, and we always will, and we'll always protect people that are picked on. We are for the many, as I think Mark mentioned earlier on, and that's a serious commitment from us. I'm afraid, Way, I do need to leave myself, but I will say my goodbye in the chat box. I've got another meeting at 8:30, but I hugely welcome the opportunity to answer questions, and I'm very happy to follow up with further questions after, and my colleagues will respond. Thank you.
You've
Okay,
responded
thank
to
you.
all the crime. You've responded to all the crime questions, Lewis. I don't need to say anything now.
Thank you, Louis. Just before you leave, thank you for coming, join us, and answer so many questions. And we will keep in touch about in the future about the further questions.
Yeah.
And just to follow you up.
Thank you, and thank you for all your support.
Yeah.
And on the 6th of May, we hope. Bye.
Okay. Bye bye.
I think Councillor Kate would like to ask a question, and then before we pass on back to Dr. Sun Wei for his last but not least very important other questions.
So I think one thing about the Labour Party in Cambridge is that we truly want to represent everybody in the community of Cambridge. So we would really like to have maybe some more councillors from the Chinese community. So if anybody is interested in maybe learning more, if you contact me or Lewis or Robert or Mark or Russ or Gerri, we would very much like to talk to you individually or more about maybe thinking about being a councillor, you know, what it involves day to day, and to try and encourage you to maybe come and join the Labour Party and stand with us in the next election. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, Russ. Are you saying?
Yes, I'm here and fully engaged.
Okay. Would you mind saying a few words to our audience?
What would you like me to say?
Introduce yourself to the community. Why we should elected you?
Sorry, I can barely hear you.
I said why the voters should elect you.
Oh, I see. I couldn't hear you. Well, I'm Cherry Hinton councillor, mayor at the moment, but not for much longer. But mayor of the city at the moment. I've been elected since 2004. Hope to retain that. But I've been along with Councillor Dryden and Ashton representing Cherry Hinton for since that time, and we are heavily embedded in the community in which we serve. We all live there. My wife, in fact, was just about born here in Cherry Hinton, so we're very local people. We understand what local people need and what they're asking of us. But more than that, we also live in the city as a whole, and I think it's important to represent not only the locality that we live in, but the city as a whole as well. My particular interest and slant is crime prevention and working with all the emergency services. We all have different skills. Mine is certainly not finance, that's for sure. But I do work very heavily with all the emergency services and the police and crime prevention and in that area.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. I saw Robert come back. Hello, Robert. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you. Glad to be back again.
Okay, would you like to say something?
Well, I've missed some of the so I don't want to repeat what's been going on, but it's a pleasure that you've invited us to your community Zoom meeting to try and answer questions. And I might have missed something, but is there any other questions you'd like to ask me? I'm here if I can answer it now.
Okay, I have two questions to ask it on behalf of Chinese community, I think. The first question is, you know, Cambridge Chinese Community Center is a registered charity, and all our activity are for local residents, not only for Chinese. And we have organized all sorts of activities, as you kindly pointed out early on. And also we have regular activities organized every Sunday. For example, children Chinese courses, again, for everyone, every races. It's not only for Chinese children. And adult Tai Chi exercise is again attracted quite a lot of local people as well. But as the largest ethnic minority group, and the Chinese community hasn't received any financial support from City Council. And I just wonder, and is there any chance City Council can support us financially, at least over Sunday's activities? So we need a venue. And if we have a fixed venue, we can support more activity and support more local residents to join us. So that's a question actually for all of you.
Well, that's a good question, and yes, you're a registered charity, and you're quite able to apply to our council grants. So all I would say is if you'd asked me before, I could have probably directed you into an area where you could apply for these grants. Wherever you've got community in any ward, you apply to in Cherry Hinton, that would be the South area, and we could have actually applied on your behalf to look for financial grants for your organisation. And perhaps we can talk about that after this meeting.
Thank you very much, Robert.
Yeah. Also, you can get, like Robert said, the community development grants, which is very important for you don't have to be a charity to get the grants. It can be one of your small groups wants to apply. They can get some money, which will help running costs. They won't pay wages, but it'll help with the paying of the rent of your venue where you are, and other parts of your organisation, but they definitely won't pay for staff.
No, we don't.
But that has kept a lot of organisations going, though, Gerri, hasn't it?
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah, lots of voluntary organisations in the city wouldn't be running without those grants. So as Rob says, these are really good grants to apply for, and we'll be able to help you do that.
Okay, thank you very much. Katie, do you have anything to on this?
Yes, I think if we can, I can email you the links to the grants that Robert and Gerri have talked about, and then if you, depending on the location, you can contact the ward councillors, and they can help give you support to apply for the grants. And then it's not just one-off, you can apply every year.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, my second question is actually related to the discussion we had before. Cambridge has a lot of Chinese tourists, and I think we are talking about millions per year, and a lot of them come here. And also a lot of people come here for investment opportunities. And my question is, because they are visitor here, and English probably is not as good as should be. And when they meet, have some problems, have some difficult, maybe it's good or bad. The good means they wanted to find the opportunity for investment. The bad is that they found it someone attacked them or hate crime, whatever. And the problem they have is they don't know where to talk, to report their problem. You know, we know we can talk to police. I'm just wonder, is there any chance for council to, for example, for Labour Party, if we continue to run the council, to have a particular councillor just in charge of these things, and whenever someone has a problems, we can communicate it to this councillor directly, and then this councillor may help the tourist or investor or whoever to correct the channel, you know, and pointing to the right sources. That's my questions.
We could perhaps look at, we'll have to chat with Lewis, but there may be a way, because I'm the disability lead and access
that's kind
councillor
of
for the city.
Access,
So we could have the same, say something like that, as a lead councillor. So we could go and have a word with Lewis about it and come back to you about that. That's okay.
I think actually it's very important. If you imagine one of the tourists has a hate crime, it will affect the reputation of Cambridge, and it will us. Okay, Katie, thank you.
Yes, we're also very aware. We've been thinking about we should put signposts from the station with Chinese characters so that people can be directed when the Chinese visitors arrive. If they come by train, they can have the directions in Chinese. So we think that's been mentioned a couple of times by by a couple of councillors, Labour councillors. So I think we would like to look into that as well.
That's useful, yeah.
I think what you're saying, why you want a councillor on our council that you can contact directly will take your quick.
Yeah, not only me. It's you know, we can, as a community, we can report it saying this is our access, and whoever you have a problem, you can get the information, help from them. They will pointing you to the right, maybe telephone number, maybe the department, you know. And otherwise, who you should talk to? We can say you can talk to police, you can talk to this, talk to that, but for a visitor, it's impossible.
What we need is someone from the community, Chinese community, to have a link with us, so we can work together.
Exactly. I think it's like a small committee, and they can discuss.
Antisocial behaviour officer to pick it up. So I think
exactly, Mark.
I mean, a good lead in there would be, of course, to report it or to make links, first of all, with your own resident community, and then, for, as Rob rightly says, for somebody from your community to contact what could be a lead councillor. Or I can see, if it didn't go in that direction, I can see whoever that lead councillor is could get inundated on a busy tourist occasion with lots of issues which they would be swamped to be able to deal with. So it'd have to be quite tightly managed. Although the idea is a sound one, it's a good one, it would have to be quite carefully managed so that we didn't generate expectations that couldn't be met. So whilst the idea is a good one, we'd have to look at it and make sure that the reporting line was actually going to work.
Yeah, I think in London they have a Chinese office.
They do,
but
Metropolitan Police do, and the City of London Police do as well.
We are a small city, but we have a lot of Chinese tourists and residents. I think to dedicate one councillor for Chinese community, it should be a good idea.
To link up, as Rob rightly says, to link up with your lead, whoever the lead for that reporting would be.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone has
more detail after tonight?
Okay, thank you. Anyone has any questions? And otherwise, we
I have a question. Right?
thank you, Robert.
We was just, I came in at the meeting when Lewis said maybe we get someone from the Chinese community to stand as a Labour councillor. Have you got anyone in mind?
I encourage all these young faces, and we definitely should have someone. We got such a large community. It's the same. But we started from today. I'm so glad so many people attended these meetings, and they normally don't interested in politics, but today is a start. And I hope we will get good candidates.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And don't forget to vote for Labour. The Reds.
All the questions we mentioned today, we'll summarize them, pre-received questions and also from the chat box, we'll summarize them, and maybe Dr. Sun, we can share with Louise and all the councillors joining us. Hopefully some of the issues raised can be addressed on and sorted later on. Yeah.
Is there any audience has any questions apart from this chat box questions?
I think we covered most of them.
We cover everything. Have we covered everything? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. I think I personally have a very enjoyable evening, and so glad to see all of you. And thank you. You spend your whole evening here. Hopefully, you will get elected and get support from our community. In this, I would like to thank you all of you support to our community. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you, Jinzhou. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Jinzhou.
Thank you.